22 allied countries launched NATO's Innovation Fund, the world's first multi-sovereign venture into investing early startups and other venture capital funds developing dual-use emerging technologies that are a priority of NATO. These sectors include artificial intelligence, big data processing, quantum-enabled technologies, biotechnology, human enhancement, energy, propulsion, and space.
Thank you so much, and good morning to all of you, presidents, prime ministers, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming here to sign this letter of commitment for the new NATO Innovation Fund. This fund is unique. It is the world's first multi-sovereign venture capital fund ever, investing €1 billion in early-stage startups and other deep tech funds across 22 participating nations, harnessing the best of new technology for transatlantic security. Maintaining our technological edge has helped to keep our alliance strong and our nations safe for more than 70 years. But today, nations that do not share our values, like Russia and China, are challenging that lead in everything from artificial intelligence to space technologies. It is essential that we do everything in our power to remain at the forefront of innovation and technology. This fund, alongside Diana, NATO's Defense Innovation Accelerator for the North Atlantic, will help to do just that. With a 50-year time frame, the NATO Innovation Fund will help bring to life those nascent technologies that have the power to transform our security in the decades to come, strengthening the alliance's innovations ecosystem and bolstering the security of our 1 billion citizens.
The agenda of NATO's summit was centered around the key points of defense and developments, as more than 40,000 troops are under direct NATO command backed by air and naval assets from the Baltic Sea in the north extending to the Black Sea in the south. Secondly, sustaining support for Ukraine has been expressed as more than billions and billions of euros worth of additional lethal and non-lethal aid has been sent to Ukraine from all of its members. Of course, the strategic concept of NATO was expressed due to the changed security environments of the world, as Russia, other emerging challenges such as food shortage crisis has been mentioned, but also addressing China. Now, lastly, the Finland and Sweden addition to NATO's members was something that was not less equally expressed, as this is opening new positions into the Arctic Sea, where NATO is finding itself outnumbered by the Russian presence.
We agreed to step up in the fight against climate change and to establish a new 1 billion innovation fund. We agreed to invest more in NATO and to increase NATO's common funded budgets. And we agreed to deepen our relationships with some of the alliance's closest partners, not least in the Indo-Pacific. Our final session at the Madrid summit focused on threats and challenges from the Middle East, North Africa, and the Sahel. Insecurity in these regions has a direct impact on the security of all allies. And our new strategic concept identifies terrorism as one of the main threats to our security. Today, we reviewed our progress in the fight against terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. And we reconfirmed our commitment to continue the fight with determination and solidarity, including through intelligence sharing and support for our partners. NATO's training mission in Iraq is helping to prevent the return of ISIS. Food prices are hitting record heights, and many countries depend on Ukraine for substantial wheat and other food imports. So allies discussed their efforts to mitigate the crisis and get grain out of Ukraine by land and on sea. We also addressed how Russia and China continue to seek political, economic, and military gain across our southern neighborhood. Both Moscow and Beijing are using economic leverage, coercion, and hybrid approaches to advance their interest in the region. So today, we discussed how to address this growing challenge. We support the idea of bringing a lot of advanced equipment, including also Western modern equipment, many different types of equipment. You have seen announcements, and there were also new announcements at this summit. So, and actually NATO now has a task to help Ukraine transition from old Soviet-era equipment to modern NATO standard equipment. And of course, we are not a list of equipments we rule out or exclude from that. Ukraine needs a wide range of modern, heavy NATO standard equipment, and that's a message also from this summit. We live in a more dangerous world, and we live in a more unpredictable world, and we live in a world where we have actually hot war going on in Europe. With the large-scale military operations we haven't seen in Europe since the Second World War. And of course, this is imposing suffering on the Ukrainian people, and we see it every day, and we pay tribute to their courage, to their bravery, and we also convey that message to President Zelensky when he addressed the summit. At the same time, we also know that this can get worse, because if this becomes a full-scale war between Russia and NATO, then we'll see suffering, damage, death, destruction at a scale which is much, much worse than what we see in Ukraine today. And therefore, NATO fundamentally has two tasks. One is to provide support to Ukraine. NATO and NATO allies provide unprecedented support to Ukraine. We are stepping up, and we agreed a package at this summit. But we also have a core responsibility, of course, to prevent escalation beyond Ukraine. And that's the reason why NATO is not part of the conflict on the ground. We support our highly valued partner, Ukraine, but we're not part of the conflict. And also why we have so significantly increased our presence in the eastern part of the alliance with more than 40,000 troops under direct NATO command to remove any room for miscalculation, misunderstanding in Moscow about our readiness to protect every inch of NATO territory. And that's NATO's core responsibility, to make sure that there is no misunderstanding in the minds of any adversary, that if they do anything like what Russia has done to Georgia in 2008 or Ukraine now, that will trigger the full response from the whole alliance. And that's the main message. And that is credible, and that's the reason why we are preventing attack and preserving peace for NATO allies, close to 1 billion people. So NATO allies, so first of all, I think it's important that NATO allies meet and coordinate and discuss and exchange views and compare notes on the different efforts that NATO allies are involved in to try to get more grain out of Ukraine, to get food out of Ukraine. Second, it's also important just to convey the message that contrary to what President Putin and actually also China now are telling the world through different disinformation campaigns, this food crisis is not caused by NATO sanctions. It's caused by President Putin's war. And the best way to end the food crisis is to end the war. And President Putin can end the war tomorrow by withdrawing his forces. Then different allies are involved in different ways. Turkey plays a key role in trying to facilitate some kind of agreement. Also, Greece announced that they are ready to make available ships to get grain out of Ukraine. And other allies are involved in different diplomatic efforts to get some kind of agreement to allow ships to sail with food, wheat over the Black Sea. Then Lithuania, other countries also updated us on their efforts to, Romania and other countries updated us on their efforts to expand the on-land capacity by railway to transport more food on land. It's very hard to compensate fully what we can transport by ships, but on land is also a way, and several NATO allies are engaged in that. And of course, NATO's role is to protect and defend allies, and to ensure and to create a space for them to operate, and that's what we do.